Okay, I think I should start. So, in last class, we have discussed about the repetitive structure of C language, and I have told you that the repetitive structure in case of C language, either we can use some loop formation, okay, or we can do it using some recursive function. Yeah. Now, uh, the loop condition, or whether I should use some loop condition or I should use some function, that depends. That depends on the relation between the repetitive structure. If the repetitive structure having some relation, then we definitely go for loop structure. If the definition uh, means repetitive structure definition having no relation, or some relation which are not that much falls under a particular pattern, then we should go for function. But remember, loops and recursive function are almost same. They almost work similarly, but thing is that the the repetitive structure should have some recursive definition. Otherwise, it is not possible to convert it into recursive function. Means, suppose I am telling about factorial. So, factorial n having two type of definition. One is it is a continuous multiplication like this, okay, and it has another definition like this also, n into n minus 1 factorial. Okay, so this type of particular definition is called iterative definition, which we can easily solve using some loop structure because it is repeating something. But this type of structure is not iterative, it is called recursive definition. Why it is called recursive definition? Because to calculate the function of factorial n, we need to know the function of factorial n minus 1. So the definition factorial is itself define another factorial. So that's why it is called recursive function. I will discuss about this. So, so this type of definition is called recursive definition, and then we should go for recursive definition or recursive function. So that is very important. If the repetitive structure having some recursive definition, then only we go for the recursive function. Otherwise, we definitely use the repetitive structure of C language, that is the loop. And we have already seen in the last class that there are three different types of loops. Okay, and the first one is the do while loop, next one while loop, and the final one is the for loop. And remember, for loop is the widely used loop, and why it is so popular, it may be due to its structure. In the for loop structure, you will see for any loop structure we require three different parts. We have to maintain or we have to control three different parts. One is initialization of the counter. Next is we have to check the condition when I should continue or whether I should stop. And another thing, we have to modify or modification of the counter. So initialization of the counter, modification of the counter, and checking the condition. These three things are very important in case of any repetitive structure, because I have to repeat something, some job, some operation, and there must be some finite number. So that's why I have to initialize. I have given one example, just like suppose you become a umpire and you have to count the number of balls that delivered by a bowler. So how you will do it? You will first initialize either your left hand or right hand, either the maximum value or the minimum value. Then in case of modification, either you have to decrease with time or you have to increase with time, and as well as you have to check the conditions. Okay, so these three are the very important part in case of any loop or repetitive structure. And if you see the for loop, all the three things are accumulated in a single statement or a single space. Rather, you can say single space. That's why I think, but in case of while or do while, see, they are in separate position location. Here is the initialization, there is the modification, there is the condition. In case of while loop, same, the initialization is here, there is the modification, there is the condition. But in case of for loop, all the three things which are very important in case of loop are accumulated or arranged in a single position. Okay, that's why it's and another thing is, using a for loop you can also represent a do while loop as well as while loop. That's why I think it's my personal view that's why for loop is so much popular, or you can say widely used. Okay, so we have covered up to this, and we have seen that this do while loop is called entry control loop. Sorry, I've made some mistake here. It should be exit. Okay, and this two are entry. So you can easily understood from the checking of condition, checking of this condition statement, where I put the condition statement. In case of do while loop, the condition statement is at the end. That's why it is called exit control. At the time of exit, it will check the condition. But in case of while or in case of for, we have to check the condition, then we can get entry to the for loop or the loop structure. Okay, so that's why do while is called exit control loop, and while and for loop, these two are called entry control. So we have already discussed about this. Just a just a brush up of the previous day's class, and then finally we have stopped in our next topic, that is the nested for loop. Okay, we have stopped in this nested for loops, but let's start from this nested for loop parts. So nested for loop means within a loop we are using another loop. So we have checked a pattern like this. The pattern is like this: 1 star, then 2 star, then 3 star, and then 4 star. So this is, we can say, nested for loop for patterns printing. Okay, print some patterns. So we have seen this, how to solve this problem. So in first line, always try to, so what are the main idea to convert this into a code? So always try to implement the first line, first row. So this is the first row, this is the first row. Okay, then try to understand what is the relation between row and column, how it is increasing or decreasing. So that is the next thing. So it is increasing with row value. Okay, so first, if I want to print the first row, my for loop will be like this. So here 1 star, then a new line. Okay, with at the end of each line there is one invisible in new line. So you have to take care that also. So for printing the first row, I will start with I equal to 0. How many star? 1 star. So I less than 1. Then I plus plus. Why I plus plus? Because I have to increase the number of rows. So in first row, I will print only 1 star. This is a printf statement. And after printing the stars, I will go for a single new line. So it is outside the for loop, single new line. Okay. Now I have to repeat this. How many times I have to repeat this? So this is for only one particular row. It is only one row. One row. Now I have to repeat this. I have to repeat this how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to repeat this 4 times. So I will write another for loop outside this for loop, which will start with 0 and then repeat for 4 times j plus plus. Okay. Now if I run this, it will print one single star in each iteration for this and a new line. So it will be like this. But according to this structure pattern, it is increasing with the value of, so this one is representing rows and this one is representing columns. Okay, so according to this picture, so with the increase of row, the column, increase in number of star. So this is first row, 1 star, second row, 2 star, 3, third row. So it is increasing with row. So which one is representing row? The j variable is representing the row. So I will increase it plus j. If the picture is like this, first row, 4 star, then 3 star, then 2 star, then 1 star, then I will go for printing the first row. It will be I less than 4. With the increase of j, it is decreasing, so I will write it minus j. Logic clear? So if it is increasing, I will plus j. If it is decreasing with row, I will perform minus j. Otherwise, it is same. So this is a simple pattern where I have used the nested for loop. Now I will go for another little bit different, or you can say little bit difficult pattern, which is almost like this but a little bit different. Okay, now I'm going a pattern like this. Pattern like this. So if you understand the logic of the pattern, then you can solve any pattern problem. Okay. Now previously it was like this: star, then star star, then star star star, then star star star. So what is the difference between these two? Now see, since this one is the last row and you're printing you in the last row you are printing 4 rows, but in previous row, sorry, in last row you are printing 4 columns, but in previous row you have printed the 4 columns, but the first one is a blank. First one is a blank. Then for this row, there are 2 blanks. Then for the first row, there are 3 blanks. Why I am considering this as blank? Because remember, there is no way that if you somehow move forward and then move into second row, there is no way that you can get back to the previous row. There is no option for that. In C language, there is no such option where you can get back to previous row. Okay, you can get back to, suppose you are in a column, you are at the end, you want to move at the front, you can do it, but there is no way that you can move backward to the previous row. It is not possible. So that's why the pattern will be considered like this. Now, if you see this pattern having a peculiar shape, there are 2 different patterns. One is this one, which is consisting of blank spaces, and there is another pattern which is with star. So it is not a single star. This one is a single star pattern. Okay, because if there is any blank space after the star printing, we don't need to consider. But if there is a blank space before star printing, then you have to take care of that blank spaces and see how the blank spaces are related. Blank spaces are decreasing order. They are decreasing. And how star is related? Star is increasing. Okay. So the first thing that you have to do, you have to print the first row. How to print the first row? Try to understand how to print the first row. So if I want to print the first row, there are 2 patterns. This is pattern number 1. This is pattern number 2. Okay, so I need 2 different loop structures. So first one, P1, how can I print it? I equal to 0. How many blank spaces? 3 blank spaces. So I less than 3. Then I plus plus. This is for the pattern P1, blank spaces. So what I will print? I will print blank spaces. Blank here. So blank is represented like this, B, then cut it. Okay. After this blank spaces, 3 blank spaces printing, I have to print 1 star, correct? I have to print 1 star. So what I will do, I will run another for loop, I equal to 0. How many stars? Only 1 star. Then I plus plus. Then I will repeat this. Now for the first time, it will print only 1 star. Done. Now after this star, there is one invisible new line in each row. So after the first for loop and the second for loop, I will move for the next thing, that is the single new line. So printf single new line. So this is my first row. This is my first row, or you can say 1 row. Now I have to repeat this. I have to repeat this how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will use one for loop outside this for loops. It will be a different variable j equal to 0. How many times? 4 times. So j less than 4. Then j plus plus. And this is the whole thing. And since the blank spaces are decreasing with the value of j, so I will perform a minus j here. And since the star is increasing with j, so I will perform a plus j here. Done. Always try to understand what I should print for the first row. Then try to understand whether there are 2 different patterns or 1 single pattern. then try to print the pattern, then repeat it, then check whether it is increasing or decreasing. If it is increasing, then you have to perform plus. If it is decreasing, then you have to perform minus. Okay, now just a dry run for this one. So what is J? What is the initial value of J? Initial value of J is 0. This one satisfying. So it will move into this one. Now I for this one, pattern P1. Okay, this is pattern P1 for blank spaces. This is for pattern P2 for star. Okay, now what is the value of this 3 minus J? It is now 3 because J is 0. Okay, so I is initialized with 0 less than 3 satisfying, so it will move into print. So it will print the first blank space. So it will print the first blank space. Okay, then I plus plus. Again I less than 3. So it will print the next blank space. Then I plus plus. Now again it is less than 3. So it will print the next blank space. Then I plus plus. Now I becomes 3. Not satisfying. So it will come into this for loop. But this for loop, again another I, which is P2, will be initialized with 0. Now what is the value of I plus J? It is now 1. So value of I is 0, less than 1, satisfying. So it will move to print the star. So it will print the star. Then I plus plus. Now it is not satisfying. So it will come out from the loop and move to printf statement. Printf statement means new line. It will blink here. Cursor will blink here. Then after this statement, J plus plus. J plus plus means J becomes 1. Okay. Now for this, again, since J is less than 4, so it will move into this for loop. Now what is the value of this? 3 minus 1, it becomes now 2. Okay. Again, start with 0. 0. Satisfying. So it will print one blank space. I plus plus 1 less than 2. Satisfying. Blank space. I plus plus 2 less than 2. Not satisfying. Go into this for loop. Inside this for loop, now this one is 1 plus 1. J is 1. So it becomes 2. So it will again start with 0. Satisfying. So it will print 1 star. Then I plus plus 1 less than 2. Satisfying. Another star. I plus plus 2. Not satisfying. It will come out and it will go for new line. So in this way it will complete the pattern. Okay. So if there is blank space before, then you have to consider that blank space as a repetitive structure or a pattern. So you have to solve it. If the blank space is after the printing the star, there is no need to go for printing those blank spaces. Okay. Now another. So I hope you will be able to do this. This is now very easy to solve. Now it is very easy to solve, since you have already understood the how to print the pattern or how to print the structure. So there is again blank space structure. So obviously it will be divided into 2 parts. This is one pattern and this one is another pattern. Okay. So how to print the first row? How to print the first row? See, in the first row, there is no blank space at the start. Okay, so your blank space structure should be like this: I equal to 0, no blank space, I less than 0. Am I clear? I plus plus. Then printf blank space. Then go for the star. I equal to 0. How many star? 4 stars. So I less than 4. I plus plus. Then printf. Now I always use the brackets. But in case of single statement inside a for loop, if you write only single statement, don't need to write the brackets. But it is a good practice that you should follow, always use the brackets, because if more than one statement, then you definitely have to use the brackets. Okay. Okay. After this, the new line structure, or sorry, new line printer done. Now you need one for loop outside to repeat all these things again and again. So j less than 4, j plus plus, okay, up to this. Then since it is increasing, blank space are increasing, so plus j, and the star is decreasing, so minus j. Done. It is pretty, I means it is very simple if you understand the pattern. If you understand the pattern, then it is very simple to solve the problem. And I will try to give you the idea of different patterns. Now the next pattern, that is also very interesting. Instead of a left or right skewed star, if it is a diamond like this, if it is a diamond like this, okay, like this. Now, for this type of pattern, the first thing that you have to break it into row and column like this. In other patterns, we can do the same thing, but for this pattern, it is very important to break it into row and column, because it is a 2D structure, matrix. So if you break it like this, then if you check what is happening, so this is the starting point. This is the starting row, 0, 0, from where you have to start. So we have not printed anything. So actually there is blank. There is another blank, then another blank. Then for the next blank, blank. Then there are some intermediate blanks also, like this, like this. Okay. So if you see the pattern carefully, then you will be able to see that you can also consider that after the star there is a blank. After the star there is a blank. You can consider. Okay, and then there is a new line, invisible new line like this. Okay, so there is star is not a single character. When you are printing star, only star is not printed. Star is always accompanied with some blank space. It means it is a combination like this, star then blank. Then see, star blank, again star blank. So whenever you are printing star, you are not only printing a single star, you are printing star and a blank combination. Okay, combination. A combination of star and blank, star and blank. So there are two different patterns. One is for blank spaces, another is for star along with blank space, and then obviously a new line. So your picture or your structure will be like this, almost similar to the star printing, the first star printing where blank space is decreasing and star is increasing. So it will be like this. First the blank spaces, so I equal to 0, I less than how many blank spaces? 3. Again I want to print the first row, then I plus plus, then this is only for the blank space. Done. Then the next pattern, again a for loop, I equal to 0, I less than how many star? 1, then I plus plus, and when I am printing star, I am not only printing star, along with I am printing a blank space. So star blank space combination. Then the invisible new line. Okay, then I am repeating the whole thing, say 4 times. So for j equal to 0, j less than 4, g plus plus. So I will repeat all these things. Okay, since the blank space is decreasing with j, so minus j, this one is increasing, plus j. Done. This simple, if you see this one, this code and this code, they are same. The only difference is here a single star is printed, but in this case, a star along with a blank space is printed. So that is the only difference. So whenever there is a pattern like star, what you have to do, you have to just understand whether I should start with blank or without blank. If it is a diamond structure, so first of all, just try to break it into row and column. If you are able to break it into row and column, then it becomes very easy. So for this also, for these structures, you can also break them into row and column for these structures like this. So like this, then this. You can do the same thing. Okay. Now, suppose there is a structure, suppose there is a structure like this. Now, how to solve this one? How to solve this one? How to solve this one? So, what you have to do, you have to break it into two parts. Remember, you have to break it into two parts. First part, solve it, one for loop for number of rows for the first part, and this is the second part. How to solve it? I'm just giving the idea. So this is for repetition. Then inside this, one for loop for blank space, another for loop for star printing, then a new line. That's all. This is the first part. Then you have to continue the second part. Again for loop. So this will continue for 4 times. This will continue for 3 times. Then again for loop. Inside the for loop, you have to perform the blank space. Then you have to perform the star printing. It is decreasing, and then the new line. So that's all. So if a picture like this is given, then you have to break it into two parts. Similarly, this type of picture also given. This is another interesting picture. So just try to understand what you have to do. So here only the outline of the diamond is given. So actually, what is in this picture? There is a blank space. Then blank, blank, blank. Then for this line, blank, 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 blank. If you break it into two parts, again you should have to break it into two parts. So then in the next, it is like this. It is like this. Okay. So how to do this? So if you see it properly, if you see this line or this line, so it is not a single star and blank space pattern, because there are blank space before also. There are blank spaces before also. So what should be the pattern, actual pattern? The actual pattern is consisting. Suppose you see this one, this line, this particular line. So now you will understand how the pattern is going on. So there is a repetition for blank space, then a single star, then again repetition of blank space. So here we are repeating not the star, we are repeating the blank spaces. So it will be like this: first for loop for blank space, then a single star, okay, then another for loop for blank space, then a single star, then a new line. This thing is repeated. This thing is repeated outside for loop. Am I clear? I hope it is clear. Now, what is the relation? Here it is increasing by 1, sorry, decreasing by 1. Here it is increasing by 2. See, 1, then 3, then 5. With the increase of row, it is increased by value 2. So, plus 2 into j. For this blank, minus j. For this blank, it is plus 2 into j. So that thing you have to take care. How the blank space is increasing, whether it is increased by 1, then just add the row. If it is increased by 2, then you have to add 2 into row. So these things you have to take care. Okay. Next, there are different types of patterns like number patterns, not just like star pattern. There may be number pattern like this. Suppose 1, then 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So how to print this? Just try to understand. So this is first row, na? This is first row. And what is the value for first row? It is j equal to 0. For the second row, it is j equal to 1. Okay, in the third row, it is j equal to 2. Okay, now try to understand the column value. So this is column value 0. Then this is column value 1. This is column value 2. This is column value 3. Okay, why I am writing 0? Because in next classes you will see 2D array, and in case of C language the 2D array will start from 0 0. Okay, that's why I am writing 0 here to just represent the similarity between this nested for loop and 2D array. Okay, so here actually I am printing the column values. See, I am printing the column values. These are the column values. With the increase of row, I am increasing the printing of column values. Okay, so this thing you have to understand. So first, for loop, how many rows? There are 4 different rows. Okay, done. Then what I am printing? I am printing the column value. See, I am printing always the column value. So which one representing column? The next nested for loop is representing the column. Okay. So how many? In first column, only 1.